Right. Another Acer Team Strike Cup match underway. Let's turn the sounds on and get rid of that little thing in the top left because this is a best of 9 between these two teams. It's why you don't see a score displayed in game, is because these are a best of 1 match, or this is, or English, or whatever you want it to be. The reality is it's 3-1 at the moment in the favor of Acer, but representing both Empire and Fnatic up here in the top left, gonna be the Blue Terran champion, Empire-Fnatic. And his opponent to the lower location on the map, from Acer, Team Acer, if you will, Acer's Nerchio. Again, you guys can love, hate Nerchio for whatever various reasons. I've always been a bit of a fan. I really like seeing him play. He's got some really talented play styles. The only drawback is the fact that he can be a little BM from time to time. He can get under people's skins, so to speak, but yeah, I'm a little bit curious to see how Koss plans to handle him. These two have definitely fought before in the past. We've seen them in multiple Zotac Cups, specifically and especially. But, you know what, a production tab would be nice. There we go. I can't even today. But yeah, a little curious on how he plans to approach this matchup, because he knows, like, as a Terran player yourself, you already know this is going to be a bit rough, because there's 2 big avenues of attack. Lately, we're seeing a lot of Roach Hydrals get involved in this matchup, and we're finding a lot of bio players having trouble with this. Meching players not exactly in a much easier place either. Whereas for Nerchio, we kind of always look at Zerg as the reactive race. You would expect him to scout mech and go one way, or scout an early CC and go the other. And it is going to be CC first here out of Koss, just throwing that out there. So playing a little bit greedy, but to the strengths of Frost, it makes a little bit of sense. That being said, Nerchio, lately, I don't know. You would expect to see a third hatchery come down pretty quick. You'd expect to see Greed matched with Greed, but chances are this will be matched with something like a little bit of early Roach pressure, something to try and poke and get in here just a tad. And that sounds a little bit crazy to say, but again, Nerchio and Bly are kind of these wild cards on Acer who, they get aggressive, they get weird, and they do stuff that really just tries to put the pressure on early so they can sail smoothly in the late game. I will note too, by the way, one of my favorite Nerchio games on Frost of all time was versus Jakshi. He lost it, granted, but he went for very fast Mutalisks, or sorry, not Mutalisks, what am I saying here? He went for very fast Ultralisks. We've seen him do things like 2-base Mutas in the past, but I don't think that's going to happen against Koss. And Koss, you know, I'm talking a lot about Nerchio, but to his credit, he's able to take on some of the best players in this game on a regular basis. It's a little inconsistent with his victories, but that doesn't really matter because he wins. I mean, you don't need to win 100% of the time as long as you can beat Koreans, as long as you can beat back the best Europe has to offer type thing. So I've got faith. He's got a chance here against Nerchio for sure. And Nerchio's not going to have an easy time winning this, but I would definitely lean more towards the favoritism of Nerchio just because I've seen him do more in the past. But we'll see just what ends up happening here. Now, unlike ZVZ, it's harder to say that he'll do a lot of Zergling Baneling aggression. Again, Speedlings were kind of his forte for a long time, but Speedlings eventually start falling out of favor, especially, well, wall off, right? Actually, strangely enough, not going to be a wall off in time. With the bunker down, though, he should be good to go. 2 Marines inside of it. This is a problem I'm noticing a lot lately, though, where Terran players are skipping the second depot up here, which is fine. It gets the wall down in the front a little bit quicker, but as a consequence, you'll see a lot of players who go for those speedlings just kind of run past the bunker and go up the top of the ramp. It's so surreal to watch, but because Nerchio didn't go for that faster speed, we're not going to actually see that happen. A lot of times you'll see Zerg players open with that gas much sooner because you're expecting Reapers, you're expecting someone to come across the map and poke you in your natural. You'll need Speedlings to deal with it, etc. But having realized the bunker was down, knows that there's no Reapers involved, and Nerchio can play a little bit more, I guess, casually with his gas. It's not nearly as important that he gets that out ASAP. Queens are starting to spread the creep out a little bit here. Only 2 queens for the time being. We don't see an additional one in production, so not going to go for that 3 count. And here comes that layer. Is this okay? Is he really gonna do? Is he gonna be 2? Is this gonna be 2-base Mutas? No way. This is so ballsy to do versus Koss, but Koss is opening with Hellions, and if he goes with a Banshee on top of this, well, actually he might not. There's no second gas taken. But with the Hellions coming out like this is not gonna work out too well for Koss. Engineering bays are already coming up though. He's going for those earlier upgrades, so he can put turrets down if that's gonna be the case, but. I don't see any evolution chambers being slapped down. I don't see a roach worn down. I don't know what else he'd use these gases for off of its fast layer. 2-base Mutalisk, I kind of alluded to it before. Nerchio's done this before in the past, and it's worked out for him. But I don't know. The problem with this is I wouldn't necessarily call it all in by any stretch of the imagination. But It is pretty dedicated, and he has to do some real damage with this. This is not an attack that can come in, pick off 2 SCVs, and then disengage. Because you're giving up your third to make this happen. You're not going for that 70 drone count to make this happen. You're just coming in with some Hellions and hoping, or sorry, with some Mutalisks, and hoping to catch some units off guard as well. But no Banshee. If this had been Banshee, this would have been devastating, I think. One of the key things Nerchio can hit in this scenario is picking off that stim pack. And I don't know if that's what he's going to go directly for, but he's getting set behind this. He knows Hellions will probably come as a bit of a counterattack. Because what are you going to do? Leave Hellions at home versus Mutalisks? If only. Launch those bad boys in the air and watch the Mutalisks fry alive. Actually, there was a... I'm going to call out here for like the super nerd fans. I know Sola Sun knows what I'm talking about if he's looking around in chat, but there's a game a long time ago that kind of predates StarCraft 2, but not StarCraft 1, called Shattered Galaxy. And what was kind of cool was they had these, like, it looked like air Mutalisks, sort of. They're like these little black things in the air. But what they would do is they shoot up flames, and they could flamethrower other air units only. Man, that stuff was cool. And I can only imagine if something like that exists in StarCraft 2. I'm surprised there isn't, to be honest. Especially in ZVZ, you'd have expected some sort of like big anti-air light versus anti-light type of air unit, but nope, Mutalisk just gonna be what it is. Oh man, the +1 weapons on this too is a little bit, I don't know, I wouldn't say surprising, but it is astonishing. No, that's the same word, it's surprising. What am I saying here? I guess I'm just a little bit caught off guard by the fact that he's dedicating so hard to this. Because this is coming in not necessarily blind, but he just barely doesn't see the turret. He just barely doesn't see the hell of a lot of Marines that are sitting behind this. And while he can maneuver past the majority of this, actually Cass has no turret in his main. He may just fly right past us and go for the main. I'm not sure if he'll be so ballsy. But like I said, these Mutalisks out early is great. That's fine, whatever. They can do some damage. But they gotta do more than a little bit of damage. Either clean up the map control, go for a couple workers, maybe deny a base. There's actually nothing up here. He can completely... he can lift this up. He may even be able to kill it if Cass gets lazy with it. But picks off the bunker building SUV right away. Lots of Marines stim in. These Zerglings have got to be careful. 2 workers go down, 5 workers, 6 workers, 8 workers go down. And a nice little run by for trading out a few lings. Not too bad. Keeps the Mutalisks alive, which is, of course, the most important thing. Middle of the map's got some Hellions, so he'll have to clean up a little bit. But he did take a third. Well, this is going on, guys. Worth noting. Queen on the high ground, mostly for vision, but also to check for medevacs and drops, because, let's be honest, this cliff has claimed many of the lives of workers in the past, for all races alike. Terrans have lost SCVs, Zerg have lost drones, and of course Protoss have lost probes, but does catch this army a little bit out of the reinforcement path, I guess you can call it. A little bit out of position. We'll lose a couple lings, but it keeps the Mutalisks alive again, and these are the critical components to keep alive. You can trade out lings all day, as long as you don't lose these Mutalisks. They heal up really quickly. And he's actually starting to get this count up really fast. I guess one of the advantages of having that out much earlier. The downside is, again, his economy suffered in the early game, but he's taken a 4th, a little bit unopposed, and if he can just get that drone count up now, I mean, it's 70 at the moment, it's looking really healthy. It starts snowballing out of control. Mutalisks are one of these units that can snowball very quickly. If you guys actually watched any of the WCS America qualifiers, to pull out a reference out of my hat here, Jim Rising was doing a lot of strategy that involved almost no Zerglings, no Banelings, but primarily Mutalisks, and he was having some pretty decent success. Now, unfortunately, he didn't qualify, so it's not the best strategy in the universe by any means, but we saw Terran players struggle like hell behind it. Nerchio, in the meantime, Centrifugal Hooks is finishing up, so that means he'll be able to actually start getting some Banelings in the action. Of course, we all know the one thing that really stops Mutalisks are Marines, but what stops Marines? Banelings, so you get this kind of nice little counterplay, rock, paper, scissors, however you want to look at it. Oh, catches this drop. Nicely done out of Nerchio. Shuts that down pretty hard out of Cass. One thing for Cass is a little bit worrisome, not so much his army count, not so much his army supply or anything like that, or even his composition, but what's worrisome is this creep spread. He needs to start pushing this back. He's been kind of stuck on it for the time being. I don't even know if he can really afford scans. Alright, he's going to go for a scan return. Meanwhile, Overlord's just being spread out all over the map right now, and this is something you often don't see because it's usually like that Viking roaming around. But even if there was that Viking roaming around claiming the lives of Overlords, there's so many Mutalisks at this point that it would go down very quickly. Up to 20, a couple of Banelings rolling in behind this. By a couple, I mean 23. Oh my god! These Marines are gonna die. There's just no question about that. Low Carbot stars and the shields won't keep them alive, not versus this. The Mulisks, oh my goodness, they're so out of control here. And again, the only thing these need to do is live. The Banelings will do the damage, the Zerglings will kill the Marines. These just need to focus the Medivacs. And all the Marines for Koss are spread really nicely, but there's just too many Banelings. As the Medivacs get picked off, the Marines become less and less viable on the ground underneath this. Nerchio just running havoc on this side of the map. Does have to be careful, he's starting to bleed out a couple of his mutas at this point. Marines are nothing to wince at. They will do a ton of damage. And the Thor has popped out as well. Goes for the Drilling Claws. Can he get it? Nope. Shutting down Drilling Claws would actually be fantastic, because for a Terran player, you don't want to have to make another tech lab on your factory. Oftentimes, it's just strictly the reactor. But 3 Widow Mines at a time, potentially. Drilling Claws will allow them to burrow instantaneously, which is huge. Oh, this command center is going to die. The cost of a couple Mutalisks, but I think that ends up being worth it for Koss, as he keeps, or sorry, for Nerchio, as he keeps Koss on 3 bases instead of 4. That awkward SCV transfer. Oh, there's no Medivacs at the moment either. He's producing 2 now, but I don't think he realized during that fight that he had lost all of them. So he's got no way to heal up these stimmed units, which means there's no push, no follow-up, and especially no drops. Meanwhile, Nerchio's actually spread out his workers from his bases, so saturated off of 4 pretty comfortably. Infestation Pit on the way as well. This is not going to be for Swarm Host, guys. If anything, a Hive Tech, and if anything beyond that, Pathogen Glands, as that is kind of Nerchio's forte. He's one of these players who's really good with his skill shots. He's able to land Fungal Growths more times than not. I worry for Koss more and more. The problem with Widow Mines can sometimes be the most godliest, best thing you've ever seen in your life, where one shot from a Widow Mine decimates a Zerg army. You know, 10 Baneling kills, instantly, bam. Other times, not so much, gets 1 Zergling kill. It's a real gamble utilizing these units. And I don't know, I've seen Widow Mines single-handedly win games, and I've seen Widow Mines single-handedly cost games with their terrible pop-offs. Anyways, more Banelings coming in here out of Nerchio. That's what, 14 on top of the 24 already in play, so that's gonna be a lot of Banelings to deal with this army. Koss does burrow some of these Widow Mines, gets some decent connects. Nerchio not able to quite catch this Marine Ball of Death. Will get some good connects though with those Widow Mines and keep him alive in this game. However, the Mutals count a little too high, again sitting on 18. Not exactly enough to overwhelm, and not exactly enough to win the game with a big counterattack, but it's enough to drive Koss back. Medivac, unfortunately, is just going to have to unload. I think he's realized that this army is dead. He needs to do as much damage as possible before he goes down. Nerchio taking another base while this is happening. Koss just, like, you know, I'm expecting to see drone lines thin down. I'm expecting to see hatcheries with damage on them, but no drops really available. He needs 100% of his army value for fighting Nerchio head on, and it looks worse and worse. Unless he can bait Nerchio into a fight, like put some Widow Mines down around a turret, catch him off guard, get some nice hits off. I mean, once he cleans up the Mutalisks, the Banelings and the Zerglings are not a problem. The only reason that this is an issue at the moment is because as he spreads out to deal with the Banelings, he becomes more vulnerable to deal with the Mutalisks. So there's no fun way to deal with this. The creep spread also starting to get towards his base, closer and closer. Now, 4 bases is kind of the comfort zone for a Terran. If done correctly, technically, Koss could win this game off of 4 bases. He's got Planetary as well, so this locks it down versus most Banelings, most Zerglings. It takes like 30 or something Banelings to kill a Planetary Fortress. It's pretty ridiculous, so I don't think we're going to see Nerchio dedicating to that quite so soon. But Widow Mine's available, and some Banelings rolling around. Awkward. Let's just turn around. Nope, 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 nope. Well, the perilous journey they took from one side of the map meets up with their ancestors here in the center. Ultra's Cavern on the way, and 3-3 has been started. Nerchio not going to get stuck on that layer tag, so while it has been 3-3 for Koss, it's not going to get necessarily easier as his opponent starts getting those upgrades himself. 15 more Banelings on top of the 27 in play. This is starting to remind me a little bit of Hyun. All these turrets go down. Couple Widow Mines pop off on the Mutalisks, and that's kind of what I was talking about. If there had been a little bit of extra damage there, he probably could have killed a lot of those. If a Thor got another volley, if there had been 3 Widow Mines instead of 2. Either way, that was a little bit scary for Nerchio. Disengages and keeps his Mutalisks alive, however. And we all know that the healing regen power in Mutalisks is insane. Koss, once again, trying to get these drops off. Not really afforded the opportunity. A little too quick to respond with these Zerglings. No static D required with this guy, apparently. And a lot of time you'll see like a Spine Crawler and a Spore Crawler bare minimum matched up, but that's not even the case for Nerchio. Doesn't feel he needs them, so push in the middle of the map. Just Costa's got such a scary army, but it's clumped up, and that's what's so scary about it. The Baneling's rolling in en masse. He's got to run past the Thors and leave these on the front lines to soak those Baneling hits, but every Baneling connects to a Marine. However, Nerchio left with just barely not enough to finish the army. If those Marines had died, those Mutalisks certainly would have swooped in for some easy kills, but 25 Mutalisks still can't clump up versus Thors and can't engage on top of stimmed Marines. Well, I should take that back. They can. It's just if he wants them to die. Well, 15 Banelings. Man, this is what I'm looking at Nerchio. He's using his economy not to get like this sort of death ball composition, but to get even trades. The problem is, Cost is starting to get maxed out regularly. This is something that's not been afforded before. We do see Ultras starting to come out now. We got a Corruptor? Dude, this is like an Impact Corruptor. If you guys watched that series versus Jakshi. That was actually a... On Heavy Rain, I'm gonna highly recommend that, guys. Someone needs to go find that VOD and link it in chat. Jakshi versus Impact in the Acer Teams World Cup was phenomenal. And one Corruptor became the hero Corruptor he needed to win the game. Granted, that wasn't what caused him to win the game. It's still cool to see. Anyways, Ultras have been revealed at this point, but they're not quite in 3-3, and they do not have chitinous plating, actually worth noting. So this is not anti-marine army yet. Ultralisks get scary for bioforces because a lot of the times they simply don't take damage from marine fire. It's Marauders and it's Thors that are hard enough to break through that sort of chitinous plating. But without chitinous plating and only level 3 armor upgrades, these are actually not that big of a threat for the Marines. Marines still deal a ton of damage. But they still gotta stim away from these Banelings, and that's a lot of Banelings to stim away from. The Thor goes down, making this a little bit better for the Mutalisks to engage. But again, guys, having 9 damage dealing with what, 4 reduction instead of 6, all of us, that's the difference of half your damage pretty much. So the Marine's able to deal quite a bit. I don't know if Nerchio's recognized that he doesn't have chitinous plating, but I think at the moment one of his biggest things is he's looking more towards trying to keep his actual army count high enough to engage costs over and over again, rather than necessarily the durability of it. Quantity over quality in this rare scenario ends up being the better choice. Lots of Banelings, if connected correctly, can do quite well here, but Nerchio, who looks so strong for the majority of this game, starting to look a little bit weaker as we get further in, just struggling to max out. Banelings being traded out in very, unfavorable engagements. That Widowmine, before it died, got a couple good hits off. And these Ultralisks aren't being put on the front lines is the other problem too. Again, not trying to criticize Nerchio or anything like that, but that's just the reality of the situation. When the Ultras come in from behind, they're not soaking the hits, so the Banelings can't get in. And the idea is if everything's shooting the Ultralisks, nothing's shooting the Banelings, and they get to connect to the army. But there's some Widowmines here. Both players are aware of this. Costa's trying to bait Nerchio into it. Nerchio's not going to fall for it. But he's going to fall back to the creep, and I think he's recognized too. One of his big flaws is he's been taking a lot of engagements off of creep. Now, he's had a lot of bases, and 76 drones is certainly a healthy amount of economy. Again, still not quite maxed out, but trying to force another fight out of this. Catching some of the Widowmines unburrowed. Will still get some nice snaps off. Or shots off, rather. Snapshots? I don't know. I'm thinking hockey terms now. Anyways, this base is going to go down, sadly. He does not have burrow, actually, so can't keep these drones alive easy peasy. Will kill some of these Marines, but again, those Widowmines just waiting to go off on those Banelings. Ultras are going to try and charge in underneath us, and the Mutalisks are doing what they can. You think he's broken this part of the army, but the problem is, as all Terran players, Costa's like another army behind this. He hasn't devoted all of this forward, and while he did rally a little bit, the Marauders and the Marines in the front lines aren't his end game. But actually, I say this, and the units that are rallying forward have no medevac support. Once again, Cost perhaps is forgotten, if not slacked on medevacs. Marauders and Marines are good, but if you don't have any healing going on for them, the more they stim, the more they just simply hurt themselves. Wrapping around here to the north, there's about 4 Marines waiting for a bunker to be built, but that bunker did not come. And this planetary fortress certainly will not get to finish. Best case scenario, he lifts this. Another base was established over here on the right side. And like I said, guys, Cost, he's completely within the realm of possibility to win this off 4 bases. Even though these are dying out now, you know, we saw the strength of those pushes and the fact that he really had Nerchio on the ropes there for his army for a little bit. But still ahead in supply in a big way, 97 over the 46 of Nerchio. One of the big things is all these Marines coming out. Again, no medevac support. None. So all of a sudden, Zerglings become more viable. All of a sudden, Ultralisks becoming intensely more dangerous. And Cost just can't stim. I think now he's realized, like, oh great, I've got no medevac. So he's started to produce some, but I think Nerchio's going to miss this window of opportunity. He doesn't have any Ultralisks, and he just made a ton of Lings expecting another fight. But that's not going to be the case. This Widowmine's been placed here to deny this, so this hatchery still hasn't been re-put up just yet. As far as what's starting to mine out, though, the natural base getting empty. Main is completely dry for Nerchio at this point. Third base getting a little bit low. Same kind of goes for cost. Natural dead, main dead. Third base mining up very quickly as both players, actually third base completely gone. Both players basically on 1-2 bases of economy. But fungal growths are on the way. Whoa, he started those infestors really early. Is that desperation? Is that Nerchio getting a little bit worried? Is that Nerchio getting a little bit flustered? This doesn't happen often. Actually, quite frankly, these are probably just so they can get some energy up quick, because he doesn't want to have to wait for those pathogen glands upgrades. As right now-ish is when you would normally start infestors, so they come out with full energy. But Ultras Cavern. Whoa, did he lose this? Did I miss a big drop while this was going on? Is that why he stopped making Ultras? I guess I did. My terrible bad, guys. The Ultras Cavern being rebuilt at the moment. Oh, you know what? Actually, was it placed over here? That would make a little bit more sense then, I guess. But with the Ultras Cavern being remade, chitinous plating needs to be started if he's going to invest into it anymore. And again, Ultras, they got a lot of damage associated with them, especially on 3-3. You don't really need the chitinous plating, but it makes it so good versus Marines. Bailey's rolling forward once again. This army's incredibly clumped out of cost. He's trying to split. He's got the army for it. Pushes Nerchio back one more time. Still the Mutalisks count in the air. 18. Nothing to be smirked at, but it's not enough to engage the army head on. A lot of Bailey's are rolling behind this, and right now this Infestor, it can get off one money fungal. It needs to get off one money fungal, but there's no Bailey's to throw into it, sadly. Ultras being corralled by these Marauders. I think this is going to be the final fight. Bailey's connect to a lot of the Marines, but the Mutalisks are clumped. That Thor deals a ton of damage. Oh my god, one more shot would have killed so many of them, but GG is going to be called. And ladies and gentlemen, Kass will take this game, putting the score now 3-2, still though in the favor of Acer.